Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. It is day 2 of the reading, with 16 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 612 pages left to go, and are 2.54% of the way through Finnegan's Wake. Welcome to episode 2 of Wake, an experiment that has no true meaning, purpose, or structure, but which fulfills a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, and in a 3-for-3 victory, am once again joined by the brilliant, the stunning, the TJ Young. How are you, TJ?
I am doing great. You know, it's funny. Right before this, I came from a meeting, and they were like, "Tell us what's new." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm on this podcast where we're reading Finnegan's Wake." And the look of sure terror, like on people, they're like, "What are you doing?" It was kind of great.
Good. I mean, that's the exact right response. I think that's the standard.
Yeah. They were very confused, to which I said, it's okay to live there because I'm living there too. So
Yeah. And already 16 pages in, already I've broken my own record for how far into Finnegan's Wake you could get. So every day is just a new
each
record,
page is
a new
another
milestone.
step. Yeah.
Every word, where every carefully chosen syllable, we are moving forward. I honestly can't really believe we got started. I think when we first proposed this, or when I first mentioned this, and then we were talking about doing an episode 0, and then we did that one, and the actual reading felt like it was never going to happen, and then suddenly it's happened. So we're here. We've also released episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can subscribe to us over there, and that's mostly just to keep us accountable. But the most important part is that we're making progress, and we really are 2.54% of the way through. And so we did the read yesterday. It was about 40 minutes or so, and you did some math yesterday based on how long that went as to how long this is going to take us, or when we'll be finished.
Yeah, it came out to 48.354 episodes, so 49 episodes plus episode 0, so like an even 50, which feels nice.
Absolutely. We're going to aim for that. I think there are some segments that are short, and I'm not going to fight it. If there's a segment that's short and it's only 4 pages, sure, I don't mind that being a single episode. But
right.
But yeah, this will be good. So as we've been working through this, we've been figuring out what the recording needs. So a couple of housekeeping notes. The eagle-eared of you will note that we are recording episode 2 the day after episode 1, although we're not going to be releasing it for a bit. And so I know that putting the date in at the top of the episode dates us, obviously, but that's on purpose, because the purpose here is to note the duration of the reading. So when I say day 2 of the reading, I mean it's been 2 days since we started the reading. So next week, when we record the next one, it'll be day 9 of the reading, even though we haven't been reading 9 consecutive days. Just interested once we start getting into the hundreds of days, hopefully not the thousands. But who knows? We don't really know. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that after our segment summaries from last episode, where I talk about each of the segments and what happens in each of them, I've decided to go back and add a little sound effect that will play under the track as we reach the end of a segment. So when you hear this sound here, that means that we're transitioning to a new story section. So the idea is, if you want to follow along with those summaries and note when it ends, you can. Why would you? But you can. I wanted to give it a little bit of texture. Just try something. So we'll see. So today we're going to finish up where we started. Chapter 1, segment 1, as we move into the first major stylistic disruption of the book, which is a dialogue between Jute and Mutt. No dialogue can be performed alone, so I'm pleased to say today that we will have TJ's dulcet tones playing. Which character did you decide you wanted to play?
I wanted Jute because I like the name. I don't know.
Jute. Okay, Jute, and I will be Mutt.
Mutt reminds me of like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. You know?
Yes. Or there's a character on Schitt's Creek called Mutt.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, I prefer the Hanna-Barbera reference. And ordinarily we would offer our guests a tap out, but in this case it's only 2 pages and it's set up like a play, so TJ just muscle through.
That's the plan.
Yeah. So, as I said, the notable point for this episode is the beginning of the podcast, where the Mutt and Jute dialogue shifts us into something very familiar to the both of us: dramatic structure. So, what do you think about Joyce disrupting his content structure so early on like this?
I'm thinking about the fact that the amount of time that he spent on the novel, right? And I think at this point, whenever you've written as much as you have and you're as prolific as he was, just try new things. It's one of those things where you can, when you watch a novelist as they progress, they're obviously, hopefully trying different techniques. And 18 years on this thing? I would hope that you would just like, what about this? What about this? And a lot of this book feels like, why does this have to be the way that the novels are structured? So I think also introducing it so early in the book allows us to shake up our expectations of what else is to come.
Yes.
Right? It's already playing with language, so after we play with language, when we start to play with form, it just opens up the possibilities a lot more.
Right, absolutely. And it's sort of really, I think there is dialogue elsewhere that we've already read, which has been baked into the narrative, where the tour guide is giving us the tour around the museum room, but it's not set out as dialogue. It's and so breaking this out into dialogue sort of shows that we've got this priority for making it clear who's saying what and who's saying what to who. So we're going to read this through in a minute. TJ will play Jute and I will play Mutt. We will not read the character headings. So when you hear TJ's voice and my voice, you'll know which character is who. Our voices are very different, so no one should be confused. So we'll be reading that through, and then we'll be plowing on. I will take over in terms of the narrative to read the remainder. As always, we're reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegan's Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we'll be reading the second half of Chapter 1.1, which spans pages 16 to 29 in this edition. As a reminder, this is a segment titled Finnegan's Wake, with the apostrophe, by the Oxford World's Classic edition of 2012, and we will return to their segment descriptions at the end. And so, without further ado, Finnegan's Wake.
Utah.
Muck's pleasure ad.
Are you Jeff?
Some hards.
But you are not Jeff Mute?
No ho, only an utterer.
Whoa, what is the matter with you?
I became a stummer.
What a huddable thing to be caused. How, Mutt?
Uput the bottle, sird.
Whose poodle? Wherein?
The inns of dung tarf, where used or to be he.
You that sighed your voice are almost inedible to me. Become a bite skin more wiseable, as if I were you.
Has af? Has a tensi? Erp, boo-huru, buru usurp. I trumple from wrath in mine minds when I rim.
One eye gone black, bisons is bisons. Let me for all your hastencies cross your qualm with trink guilt. Here, have sylvan coin, a piece of oak, guineas his good for you.
Loey, how wouldn't I know it? The intelligible great coat of Cedric Shilkyshag. Seared merely faulty rices for one Dablin bar. Old grizzly growlsy. He was poached on in that egg-tential spot. Here where the livery's monomarch. There where the miser's moony minikin pass.
Simply because, as Tacturn pretells, our wrong story shorter, he dumpeted the whole borough of rubber guests on the soil here.
Just how a puddin stone in at the brooksells by a river pool.
Lord Allmarshy, with wad for a Norse like.
Sumula with a bull on a clump turf. Rooks roarum rex room. I could snore to him of the spumy horn, with his woolsy side in, by the neck I am suttin on, did Briam de of Lynn.
Boiled oil and raw honey on me when I am barely forstand a weird from struck and finnick in such a patwat as your rudimador rotor, on herd and of umsets, gut after meal, see you doomed.
Quite a gream. Bus of a sec. Walk a dun blink round with this abadustle, and you skull see how old ye plain of my elters, Humphrey and ours, where one to whale Wimbrel to peewee o'er the saltings, where will be city by law of Isthmon, where by a droit of signory, Iceflow was from his in the beginning to whose finish there punct. Let ere him rumor, me emerge two races, sweet and brack, Morthering rue, hither, cratching you estuards, they are insurgents, hence, cool at ebb they requiesce. Countless of live stories have nether fallen by this plage, flick as flower flakes, litters from aloft like a wast wizard, all of whirlwords. Now are all tombed to the ground, ishjes to ishjes, erd to erd, from erd. Pride, O pride, thy prize!
Stench!
Fiat fute, hereunder lie they, large by the smell and every night life also the estrange. Babylon the great grand hotel with Tittlehouse, Alp on earwig, Drucken on ild, like as equal to an equal in this sound cemetery, which is Liebe's love.
Zamardi.
Mendel lies, by the fierce wave begouted, Despond sung, and Thanastestros mound have swallowed them all. This ourth of years is not save brick dust, and being hummus of the same roturns. He who runes may read it on all fours. Oakstal, Newcastle, Trickastle, crumbling. Sell me sooth the fare for humbling. Humble a deity fair, but speak it all softly, Mulder, be in your wished.
Weiss.
The Giant Forkicles with Amni the Fay.
Howie.
Here is Vice King's grab.
Hawad.
Or you Aston-egged, Jute you?
I am Thronstruck Figmud.
Stoop. If you are Abede-minded to this clay book, what curios of signs, please stoop. In this aleph bed, can you read, since we and thou had it out already, its world? It is the same told of all, many, miscenations on miscenations. Tekel, they lived and laughed and loved and left, for sin. Thy thingdom is given to the Medes and the Porsons. The Mandertale, a loss and a gain of our old Heidenberg in the days when head in clouds walked the earth. In the ignorance that implies impression, that knits knowledge, that finds the name form, that wets the wits, that convey contacts, that sweetens sensation, that drives desire, that adheres to attachment, that dogs death, that bitches birth, that entails the issuance of existentiality. But with a rush out of his navel reaching the reredos of Ramabatham. A terricolour's vively own view this, queer, and it continues to be quaky. A hatch, a celt, an ear share, the porquos of which was to cassay the earth crust at all of hours, furrowards, baggerwards, like yoxen at the term fat. Here say figurines bellicose arming and mounting and arming bellicose figurines, see here. Furtherk, this little effigy is for a firefing called a flint for all. Face at the east, oh I say, face at the west, oh you fie, upwap and dump 'em, ace to ace. When a part so petit does duty for the holos, we soon grow to use of an alphabet. Here, please to stoop, are silver-and-cued petit peas of quite a peculiar interest, in as little as they are the pellets and make the tom-tummies payroll. Right rank Ragnar's rocks, and with these rocks orangos rank-tangled tough and right gorong. Wisha, why dat da? Thick as for thorn, that's thuck in this thoil like thumb fool's thrater thrust for vengeance. What a nice old mess it all makes. a midden-hide horde of objects, Olives, Beats, Kimmels, Dollies, Alfreds, Beaties, Cormacs, and Daltons. Owlets, Eags, oh, stoop to please, I hear, Creakish from age, and all now quite epicene, and old worldly wobblewers, Hodworth a wipe o' grass. See the snake worms every side. Our Durlbum is swarming in sneaks. They came to our island from triangular Tuchitair beyond the wet prairie, reared up in the midst of the cargan of prohibitive promifructs, but along landed Paddy Whippingham and his garbage cans, cotched the creeps of them, pricker than our who's there out of man could quick up her what's that's. Some divide and some the lot, but the tally turns round the same ballyfuse on. Racketeers and botloggers. Axe on thrax, axe and wise. One by place, one be three, ditto, and one before. Two nurses, one make a plausible free and item behind. Starting off with a big boa and three-legged calvers and ivagard grain jadises with their message in their mouths. And 100 filled unleavened white of liberum Q to con and we can till all horrors eve. What a Neanderthal tale to unfurl, and with what an end in view of squatter and anti-squatter and post-prone anti-squatter. To say to us, to be every Tim, Nick, and Larry of us, sons of the sod, sons, little sons, yea, and lay little sons, when uses not to be, every Sue, Sis, and Sally of us, Dugters of Nan, accusative Arnshire, damadam to infinities. True, there was Nilos Dabos, as yet no lumpen papier in the waste and might mountain pen still grown for the Mices to let free. All was of ancientry. You gave me a boot, signs on it, and I ate the wind. I quizzed you a quid, with for what? And you went to the quad. But the world mind is, was, and will be writing its own runes forever, man, on all matters that fall under the ban of our infrarational senses for the last milch camel. The heart vein throbbing between his eyebrows has still to moor before the tomb of his cousin Charmian, where his date is tethered by the palm that's hers. But the horn, the drinking, the day of dread are not now. A bone, a pebble, a ramskin, chip them, chap them, cut them up always, leave them to terracook in the mothering pot. And Gutenberg with his Cro-Magnon charter, tinting fast and great primer must once for omnibus step rubbicked red out of the WordPress, else is there no virtue more in alcohoran. For that, the rapt one warns, is what paper is made of, hides and hints and misses in prints. Till ye finally, though not yet end-like, meet with the acquaintance of Mr. Typus, Mistress Tope, and all the little type topies. Filstup. So you need hardly spell me how every word will be bound over to Carty 70 top typical reading throughout the book of Double N's giant, may his forehead be darkened with mud who would sunder, till Daleth, Mahoma Huma, who oped it closeth there of the door. Cry not yet, there's many a smile to nondum, with city maids per man, sir, and the park's so dark by candle light. But look what you have in your hand self. The movables are scrawling in motions, marching, all of them ago, in pit-pat and zing-zang, for every busy eerie wig's a bit of a Tory tale to tell. One's upon a time, and two's behind their letter sleep, and three's among the shrubbery beds. And the chicks pick their teeths, and the domkey he began. You can ask your ass if he believes it. And so cuddy me only wallops have heels. That one of a wife with faulty barnets. For then was the age when hoops ran high, of a Newark and a chopwife, of a pom full of grave and a fammy of levity, or of golden youths that wanted gelding, or of what the mischief miss made a man do. Malmaridad he was reverso-gassed by the frisk of her frasks and her pretty pyrrhic. May fay, she's la gay, this snaky woman, from that trippery to expecting pellic. Vale, Valentine eyes. She's the very besh Winnie knows blows nay on good. Flow in, flow an. Ho! So it's sure it was her, not we. But lay it easy, gentlemen, for we are in rearing of a Norwig. So weeny, beany, veeny, teeny, come see. Het wis if inute. Listen, I am doing it. Hark, the corn and treats, and the larp notes prittle. It was of a night, late, lang time agone, in the old stone eld, when Adam was delving, and his madamine spinning water silts, when Mulk Mounty Naughty Man was every bully, and the first leal ribber robber that ever had her ain way everybody to his love-saking eyes, and every billy lived alove with every biddy else, and Jarl Van Hoother had his burnt head high up in his lamp house, laying cold hands on himself. And his two little Jiminies, cousins of Aaron, Christopher and Hilary, were kick-a-heeling their dummy on the oilcloth floor of his homerig, castle and earthen house. And, be dermot, who come to the keep of his inn, only the niece of his in-law, the prank queen. And the prank queen pulled a rosy one, and made her wit forninst the dower. And she lit up, and Firehand was ablaze. And spoke she to the dower in her petty purisiren, mark the wants, why do I am look alike the poss of porterpiece? And that was how the skirmishes began. But the dower hand-worded her grace in Dooch Nassau, shut. So her grace of malice kidnapped the Jiminy Christopher, and into the shandy westerness she rain. And Jarl Van Hoother wallest after her with soft dove's gall. Stop, deef, stop, come back to mine earin, stop. But she sworded to him, unlikelihood. And there was a brain a while that the same Shabbaleth night of falling angles somewhere in Erio. And the prank queen went for her 40 years' walk in Turlamond, and she washed the blessings of the love spots off the Jiminy with soap, sulliver, suddles, and she had her 4 owlers masters for to touch him his tickles, and she convorted him to the one sure all good, and he became a luderman. So then she started to rain, and be rid Tom. She was back again at Jarl Van Hoother's in a brace of samers, and the Jiminy with her in a pinafrond, lace at night at another time. And where did she come but to the bar of his Bristolry? And Jarl Von Hoother had his bare tholo bruised heels drowned in his cellar malt, shaking warm hams with himself, and the Jiminy, Hilary, and the dummy in their first infancy were below on the tear-sheet, ringing and coughing, like Broder and Histher. And the prank queen nipped a paly one, and lit up again, and red cocks flew flackering from the hill-combs. And she made her witter before the wicked, saying, mark the twy, why do I am a look alike 2 poss of porter, please? And shut, says the wicked, hand-wording her majesty. So her majesty aforethought set down a Jiminy, and took up a Jiminy, and all the lily path ways, to woman's land she rain. And Jarl Von Hoother bleathered after her with a loud finnegale, stop, Dom, come back with my earring, stop. But the prank queen did, am liking it. And there was a wild old granny whale that Lawrencey night of star shootings somewhere in Erio. And the prank queen went for her 40 years' walk in Turnalmean, and she punched the curses of Crom Cowell with the nail of a top into the Jiminy, and she had her 4 larksical monatrix to touch him his tears, and she provorted him to the one certain all secure, and he became a Christian. So then he started raining, and in a pair of changes, bedommed her. She was back again at Jarl Von Hoother's and at the Larry Hill with her under her abramet. And why would she halt at all, if not by the ward of his mansion home of another nice lace for the 3rd charm? And Jarl Von Hoother had his hurricane hips up to the pantry box, ruminating in his hold-for stomachs. Dare, oh dare. And the Jiminy Tartha trees and the dummy were below on the watercloth, kissing and spitting, and roguing and poguing like knave poultry and naive bride, and in their 2nd infancy. And the prank queen kicked a blank and lit out, and the valleys lay twinkling. And she made her wittest in front of the archway of Tryhump, asking, mark the tris, why do I am a look alike 3 poss of porter, please? But that was how the skirmishes ended up. For like the Campbells coming with fork lance of lightning, Jarl von Hutherbergner's himself, the old terror of the dames, came hip-hop handy-hap out through the pike-and opened archway of his 3 Schutten castles, in his Brodinger hat and his civic collar, and his Olabuff hemmed, and his bullbragen socks and gloves, and his Ladbroke breeks, and his catgut bandolier, and his fur-famed penincular cumbots, like a Rudgellen Grubline orange man in his violet indignation, to the whole length of the strength of his bowman's bill, and he clopped his rude hands to his easy hitch, and he ordered, and his thick spick for her to shut up shop, Dappy, and the duppy shot the shutter clop. Perkonax Kronbargrubru Gok Gor Leor Gom Gremet Gehund Herth Ruma Thunna Udadilili Fighty Tilly Tilly Bumul Kun Klidon Kun. And they all drank free. For one in his armour was a fat match always for any girl's undershirts. And that was the first piece of illiteratized porthery in all the flame-end bloody flatuous world. How Kersey the Tittler made a sweet unclose to the Narwhalian capital. Sore for shalt thou not see, betune ye and be. The prank queen was to hold her dummy ship, and the Jimimies was to keep the peace wave, and Van Hooster was to get the wind up. Thus the hearsomeness of the burgher felicitates the whole of the polis. O Phoenix culprit, ex Nikilau Malo comes Michaelmast bonum. Hill rill ones in company, billeted, less be proud of. Best breast high and bestride. Only for that these will not breathe upon Noranesen or Iranian the secrest of their sourlessness. Squirrely silex, homfrey noenswa. Undigentian festines, Livia answa. Walkencap is on him, frowned and duriate. He would eavesdrip, were it mouse in hand, were it din of bottles in the far ear. Murk, his veils are darkling. With lipth she liptheth him to him all the time of thuck on tho on tho. She he, she ho, she ha, tu la. Herr Fluke, if he could bad twig her, impalpabunt he abheres. The sound waves are his buffeteers, they tromp him with their trumps, the wave of Rory and the wave of Husht, and the wave of Howd, and the wave of Nether heed them horse lugger and listle to mine, landluft by his neighbour mistress and perpetrified in his offspring, sabes and suckers, the moaning pipers could tell him to his face back, the louthly one whose lobe we are devourers of, how but this for his hold halibut, or her to her pewter puff, the lip one whose libe we drink at, how biff for her tiddlywink of a windfall, our breed and washer givers, there would not be a holy spire on the town, nor a vestal flouting in the dock, nay to make plain avowals, nor a U, nor an I to play cash in novo nilbud by swamp light, nor a tool at all, and noddy hint to the conveyance. He dug in and dug out by the skill of his tilth for himself and all belonging to him, and he sweated his crew beneath his auspice for the living, and he earned his dread, that dragon volant, and made louse for us, and delivered us to boll weevils amain, that mighty liberator, Unfru Chikda Uru Wukru, and begad he did, our ancestor most worshipful, till he thought of a better one in his windower's house, with that blush mantle upon him from ear's end to ear's end. And would again could whispering grassies wake him, and may again when the fiery bird disembers, and will again, if be sooth by elder to his youngers shall be said. Have you wines for my wedding? Did you bring bride and bedding? Did you hoop for my deading? Is a wake usquid borgum anum muck and duel. Did ye drink me dawn ale? Now be acy, good Mr. Fenimore, sir, and take your leisure like a god on pension, and don't be walking abroad. Sure, you'd only lose yourself in Heliopolis, now the way your roads in Capilla Vester are that winding there after the cavalry, the Northumbrian and the Fives Barrows and Waddling's raid, and the Bower Moor, and wet your feet maybe with the foggy dews abroad. Meeting some sick old bankrupt, or the Cotterix donkey with his hue hanging, clang katakang katakanka, or a slut snoring a impure infant on a bench. 'Twould turn you against life, so 'twould. And the weather's that mean too. To part from Devlin is hard, as Nugent knew. To leave the clean, tanglesome one lushier than its neighbour in franchisable fields, but let your ghost have no grievance. You're better off, sir, where you go, prime-signed in the full of your dress, blood-eagle waistcoat and all, remembering your shapes and sizes on the pillow of your baby curls under your sycamore by the keld waiter, where the Tories' clay will scare the varmints, and have you all you want, pouch, gloves, flask, briquet, kerchief, ring and amberella, the whole treasure of the pyre in the land of souls, with Homan and Broyan Baruch and Pol Ol Lonan and no bucket Mosler and Gunigis Khan. And we'll be coming here, the ombre players, to rake your gravel and bringing you presents, won't we, Fenians? And if isn't our spittle will stint of you, is it, druids? Not shabty little imagettes, penny dirts and dodge my eyes you buy it in the sooty stores, but offerings of the fields. Meliodaries, that Dr. Faherty, the Madison man, taught to good and new. Poppy pap's a passport out, and honey is the holiest thing ever was, chive, comb, and earwax, the food for glory. Mind you keep the pot, or your nectar cup may yield too light. And some goat's milk, sir, like the maid used to bring you. Your fame is spreading like basilico's ointment since the Fintan lay laws piped you overboarder, and there's whole households beyond the Bothnians, and they calling names after you. The men here's always talking of you sitting around on the pig's cheeks under the sacred roof tree, over the bowls of memory where every hollow holds a hallow, with a pledge till the drengs in the salmon house, and admiring to our super shillelagh, where the palm sweat on high is the mark of your monument. All the toothpicks ere ironisons chewed on are chips chepped from that battery block. If you were bowed and soiled and let down itself from the owner of the load, it was the paddy planters that might pick up plenty, and when you were undone in every point for the lapse of goddesses, you showed our labour lasses how to free was easy. The game old gun, they do be saying. Skull! That was a planter for you, a spicer of them all. Begog, but he was, the G.O.G. He's dud and gone now, and we're apt to finding the sores of his sedek at but peace to his great limbs, the bud hock, with the last league long rest of him, while the million-candled eye of Tuskar sweeps the Merlian main. There was never a warlord in great errands in Bretland, no, nor in all Pike County like you, they say. No, nor a king, nor an Ard king, Bung king, Sung king, or Hung king. That you could fell an elms tree, 12 urchins couldn't ring round and hoist high the stone that Liam failed. Who but a MacCallumore, the reese of our fortunes and the foreman at the funeral to compass our cause? If you was Hogglebully itself, and most thrifty, like you was taking waters, still, but what all where was your like to lay the cable, or who was the batter could better your grace? Mick Mac Magnus Macaulay can take you off to senior Mrs. Mick Mac Magnus Macaulay can take you off to the pure perfection, and Leatherbags Reynolds tries your shuffle and cut. But as Hopkins puts it, you were the pale eggy-naggy and a kiss to tilly up. We calls him the journey all Bugloffs, since he went Jerusalem faring in Arshamena. You had a gamier cock than Pete, Jake, or Martin, and your archgoose of geese stubbled for All Angels' Day. So may the priest of 7 worms and scalding tay-boil, Papa Vestre, come never near you as your hair grows wheater beside the liffey that's in heaven. Hep, hep, hooray there! Hero! 7 times thereto we salute you. The whole bag of kits, falcon plumes, and jackboots incloted is where you flung them at the time. Your heart is in the system of the she-wolf, and your crested head is in the tropic of Copra-Capron. Your feet in the cloister of Virgo. Your Olala is in the region of Sehuls, and that's ashore as you were born. Your shuck-ticks swell, and that there Texas is toe linen. The Lomestone Rome to Lafayette is ended. Drop in your tracks, babe. Be not unrested. The head bodily watcher of the temple of Isid, Totem Kalmum, saith, I know thee, Methajar, I know thee, salvation boat. For we have performed upon thee, thou abrogation, who comest ever without being invoked, whose coming is unknown, all the things which the company of the precentors and the grammarians of Christ Patrick's ordered concerning thee in the matter of the work of thy tombing. How of the shipmen, steep wall. Everything's going on at the same, or it's so it appears to all of us in the old homestead here. Coughing's all over the sanctuary, bad scrant to me Aunt Florenza, the horn for breakfast, one a gong for lunch and dinner chime, as popular as when Belly the First was king and his members met in the diet of man. The same shop slop in the window, Jacob's letter crackers and Dr. Tipple's vi cocoa and the Isward's vapoured soup beside Mother Seagull's syrup. Meat took a drop when Riley Parsons failed. Coal's short, but we've plenty to bog in the yard, and Bailey's up again, be grain to it. The lads is attending school, Nesson's regular, sir, spelling bees' knees with hate and Haiti, and turning out tables by mud application. All for the books and never pegging smashes after Tombo Glassass or Timmy the Tosser. 'Tis really the truth. No, it isn't. No, isn't it? Roman Patherix, you were double-jointed janitor the morning they were delivered, and you'll be a grandfer yet entirely when the right hand seizes what the love arm knows. Kevin's just a dote with his cherub cheek chalking ogres on the walls and his little lamp and school belt and bag of nicks playing postman's knock round the diggings, and if the seep were milk you could leave his old by his eyed, but lock's sake the devil does be in that nerps of a Jerry sometimes, the tar and tan plaid boy making incositive income out of the last of his lavings and writing a blue streak over his birthday shirt. Hetty Jane's a child of Mary. She'll be coming, for they're sure to choose her, in her white of gold with a torch of ivy to rekindle the flame on Felix Day. But Essie Shanahan has let down her skirts. You remember Essie in our Luna's convent? They called her Holly Mary, her lips were so ruddy berry, and Pia de Purabelle when the Red Miners' riots were on about her. Were I a clerk designate to the Williams Woodsman manufacturers, I'd poster these powders on every jam in the town. She's making her rep at Lana's twice nightly, with the taborine tam-tammers of the whirly-McGees. Beats that cuckoo-cuckoo-ca flat. Would to dilate your heart to go. I see now, you decent man, with your knees, and lie quiet, repose your honour's lordship. Hold him here, Ezekiel Irons, and may God strengthen you. It's our warm spirits, boys. He's spurring. Demetrius O'Flanagan, cork that cure for the Clancarties. You swamped enough since Portobello to float the Pomeroy. Fetch naywhere, Pat Coy, and fetch new you, Pam Yates, and be nather angst of Ramarich. Here's Lumbos, where Minsty's swallow 'em, where Mishki's lodge none, where mysteries pour kind on, oh sleepy, and so be yet. I've an eye on queer Behan and old Kate and the butter, trust me. She'll do no juggly-wuggly with her war souvenir postcards to help me build me Muriel tippers. I'll trip your traps. Assure there. And we put on your clock again, sir, for you. Did or didn't we, share stutterers? So you won't be up a stump entirely, nor shed your remnants. The stern wheel's crawling along. I seen your missus in the hall like the Queen of Ear. Arrah, it's herself that's fine too, don't be talking. Shirks ends? You Storian Harry chap lunga me Harry chap Storian grasp, woman plethy good trout. Shakes hands. Dibble a hayfork's wrong, with her only her lex salig. Bold Tib does be yawning and smirking cat's hours on the Pollux' woolly round Tabor's cushion, watching her sewing a dream together, the tailor's daughter stitched to her last. All while waiting for winter to fire the enchantment, decoying more nesters to fall down the flue. It's an avalanche that blows no pussy food. If you only were there to explain the meaning best of men and to talk to her nice of golden selva, the lips would moisten once again, as when you drove with her to Findrinny Fair. What with reins here and ribbons there, and all your hands were employed, so she never knew was she on land or at sea, or swooped through the blue like Airwinger's bride. She was flirtsome then, and she's fluttersome yet. She can second a song and adores a scandal, and when the last post's gone by. Fond of a concertina and pairs passing when she's had her 40 winks for supper after Canacan, and ably dimpling, and is in her Merlin chair assorted, reading her Evening World. To see is its smarts, full length or swaggers. News, news, all the news. Death, a leopard, kills fella in Fez. Angry scenes at storm out. Still a star with her lucky in going aways. Opportunity fair with the China floods, and we hear those rosy rumours. Ding-tams he noise about all the same Harry chap. She's seeking her way, a chuckle, in and out of their serial story, lay loves of Selskar a Pervench, freely adapted to the Norwegian's Viv. There'll be bluebells blowing in salty sepulchres the night she signs her final tear. The end. But that's a world of ways away, till track law's time. No silver ash or switches for that one, while flattering candles glare. Anastasies, how are you? Worth a weight in the noblest, says Adams and Sons, the would-pay actioneers. Her hair's as brown as ever it was, and wivy and wavy. Repose you now. Fin, no more. Now be that same-sake substitute of a hooky salmon. There's already a big roady ram lad at random on the premises of his haunt of the hungered bordels, as it is told me. Shop illicit, flourishing like a Lord Major, or a boa baybome, litting flop a dead lop, a loose to lee, but lifting a ben branch a yard along. Eve away! On the breezy side, for shaum. The height of Brewer's chimney, and as broad below as Phineas Barnum, humping his share of the shouters, is senken on him. He's such a grand fella, with a pocked wife in pickle that's a fly fire, and 3 lice nittle clinkers, 2 twilling bugs, and 1 midget pucelle. And aither he cursed and recursed and was ever seen doing what your 4-footers saw, or he was never done seeing what your cool pigeons know, weep the clouds a boon for smile down witnesses. And that'll do now about the fairy he's and the fraily she's, though ease it fibble it to the Zephyroth, and arter zoom it round for her heavens for ever. Creator he has created for his creatured one's creation. White monothoid? Red theatricat, and all the pink prophets coal hail thing? Very much so. But however 'twas, 'tis sure for one thing, what Sheriff Tura vouches fors, and Matt Pickwick makes put out, that the man hum the cheapner, esque, overseen as we thought him, yet a worthy of the name, came at this time-coloured place where we live in our parochial firmament, one tied on another, with a bum-rush and hull of a wherry, the twin-turbine dow, the bay for dibbling, this archipelago's first visiting schooner, with a Wicklow pattern waxen wench at her prow for a figurehead, the Dead Sea dugong up-dip dripping from his depths, and has been repreaching himself like a fish mummer these 60 years ever since, his Shelby by his side, 80 and aid, and growing whorish under his turban and changing cane sugar into cellulose starch, tut says to him. As also that, batin the bulky hood he bloats about when inebriated, our old offender was humile, commune, and insectuous from his nature, which you may gouge after the bynames was put under him in lations of languages, honor and suit and praises be, and totalizing him, even Hamisim of Himishim, that he, sober serious, he is and no counter he who will be umitantly responsible for the hubbub caused in Edinburgh. That was the second half of chapter 1.1, pages 16 to 29 from Finnegan's Wake, and officially the end of our first chapter. TJ, you are filled with questions. I can see it on your face.
I am. One is I'm thinking about the history of literary influence, and let's say there's a young writer out there who is like, Finnegan's Wake, it's crazy, like I'm pulling something from it, they read the analysis. Do you think today a writer could put something forth to be like, this is my Finnegan's Wake, and a publisher would be like, yeah, absolutely, dope? Or would they be like, you haven't earned that? I mean, truthfully.
Yeah,
right?
I think it depends who it is. I think if I don't know, David Sedaris wanted to try one, his publisher might say, okay, let's give it a go. But I think if it was a kid straight out of grad school, you'd have a hard time selling that as your first book. And um, I used to have students who would write challenging plays, and then they would say, but no one wants to produce these plays. And you
Because
go,
they
yeah,
don't know who you are yet.
and they can't sell your name yet. So I feel as though potentially, the thing that kept coming back to me as I was reading, he messes with the language so much. He flips things around. There's a lot of malapropism. There's a lot of he's taking plain English words and he's corrupting them for reasons, whatever his reasons are, whether it's just to do it or whatever. But we've got to remember that he was writing this in the 1920s, probably either in longhand or on a typewriter. And so just the process of finding a word and corrupting it in such a way means he was either doing it in real time, and this was coming out of him as he corrupted these words, and smashing them together, and taking a word which, if you read it off the page, if you read it silently, the word makes no sense, and you read it aloud. And it was a few times when I'd get past a word and I'd be like, I'd have said it, and then I would go, oh, that's what that word means. But it's not spelled the way I'm used to it. So the fact that he was able to do that with the technology available to him is kind of mind-blowing to me. And yeah, I think he couldn't have written this as his first book. He wrote it. It's no coincidence as we progress through, we go from his most accessible to his least, because he had that the heat from what had come before, where his publisher Sylvia Beach trusted him and said, "Yeah, let's just make it happen. We can sell your name."
Yeah, and it's funny because even just reading those 2 pages with you, I was like, the way that this is written, it makes you question the pronunciation of every letter and every syllable within a word, because you're like, is this E actually spoken when normally this E would be silent, but because of the placement of it, like all those questions are constantly going through the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting. And there were a few times when I mispronounced a word, like I'd get past it and go, "Oh, that meant to be something else." Again, the purists tearing their hair out as we speak. And I thought about stopping and going back to correct it, because I thought, "Oh, I understand what he means now. Let me go back and." But I didn't, because that's not the point of this. So
I have
did you?
I have another question, just for, we know our good friends Jim and Marcella in '98 did an abridged version of this. How did you abridge any of this?
Well, I imagine that they had a similar kind of outline to what we have, and that they've decided to only analyze, things that are specific to HCE, for example, as opposed to all of these little tangents, all of the analysis of St. Patrick driving the snakes out of Ireland, which arguably is part of his story. But so I guess maybe that would be it.
I guess, because I was like, how?
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's fun to read. Yeah, there's I love there's so much fun alliteration going on there. On page 19, right rank Ragnar rocks, and with these rocks Oranjo Tanjos wrangled rough and right garong. He's just having fun. There's things in there. He's just sort of really messing with us. And then on page 18, I don't know if you caught that, right at the very bottom.
The face to face.
Yeah. So they're stylized where he's messed with the typeface, where the F at the beginning of both faces, on the first one, the F is in much larger font, is facing sideways and down, and then the next face is a much larger font and facing sideways and up. I'm sure someone out there has written an entire chapter of their dissertation on the typefaces used in Finnegan's Wake. I'm sure we could look it up. We won't, but it so interesting.
My favorite on page 19 was what a Neanderthal tale. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, meandering it. Yeah, it's so good. I loved on page 20 when he talks about his eyebrows.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like the eyebrows because one of my kids, I can't remember which one, probably my son, I think it was my son, used to pronounce eyebrows as eyebrows when he was little,
Hmm.
because his eyebrows were brown. And so we still call them eyebrows at our house. So I thought that was very clever of him. And then, of course, on page 23, we have the second of the 100-letter words. We haven't done any analysis on what this is made up for, but it was nice to get. It was a nice surprise to turn the page and go, "Whoa, there's another one."
Yeah, here we go. Yeah,
No prep, just straight into it. So
the way you roll your R's is enchanting, I must say.
I feel like, I feel as though it's necessary to continue with that impact, that misophonia moment.
Hmm.
Page 26, Texas makes an appearance halfway down as TJ as a proud Texan.
Sure am.
We have here Texas is in here, so that's important. Then on page 27, my interpretation, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but it's the most when they talk about Essie Shanahan, they called her Holy Mary, her lips were so ruddy berry, and Pia de Purabelle when the Red Miners riots was on about her. And so I can only assume that the Red Miners riots refers to menstruation.
Yeah.
Which it's an amazing image. One of those things where you go, well, that's very, very descriptive. We know exactly what you're talking about.
I was also down with Tombow glass R's.
Yes. So much fun stuff in there. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know if we're obviously we're not pronouncing everything right and everything, but it's just it feels meditative to read it. There were a few times when I was reading and my mind went somewhere else, and I was thinking about other things, and then realized that I came back and I'd continued talking, and unless there were long periods where I paused for 30 seconds as I
You did
vaguely.
not.
I don't think so. I just think I just kept going. So it was almost like automatic reading when my eyes were seeing it and my mouth was saying what my brain had seen, but I had sort of taken the rest of my brain and put it somewhere else and was thinking about something else. So it's a really interesting physiological thing that I hadn't really expected, or at least I'm seeing for the next time after the last time. So
yeah, I also think it's funny because in episode 0, like, who's giggling at this book? And we're like, we're giggling at this book.
yeah. Although it's interesting that we're probably not giggling at the things that Joyce wants us to giggle at. We're
My
taking other
language
things.
changes, Joyce. I don't know what you want from me. But I also wrote page 28, watching her sewing a dream together. Like, again, there's like these lines that like he's kind of just tossing around. I'm like, that would be the line in a lesser writer's book or play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we somewhere in here we need to come up with either a title for one of your future plays or a title for one of my son's bands or something, where you take 3 random words from Finnegan's Wake and then
Boom, boom, boom.
that's the name of the band, and people are like, "Well, where'd you get the name?" Like, well, actually, let me tell you.
Finnegan's Wake.
So we've got the summaries from Oxford World Classic. We'll see if we got any of this. We stopped in the middle of the Mutt and Jute section in the end of the last episode, so we picked that up again. That's from 1528 to 1816. Mutt and Jute discuss national conflicts and domestic relations.
Jute was all like, Mutt, drink a beer. That's what I heard.
Yeah. It was interesting performing Mutt and Jute. It made me think a lot of things like Antonin Artaud's The Jet of Blood, or which Jet of Blood is this crazy theatre of cruelty play written by Artaud, who it's rarely performed, but when it's performed, it's something, and it includes hands of gods and giant exploding vaginas and scorpions coming out of people and all sorts of crazy stuff. And yeah, it's 3 pages long and it's amazing. If you can look it up, it's the best. Or there's another play, it's called Desire Caught by the Tail, which is written by the artist Pablo Picasso, that he wrote while he was like fleeing the Nazis in 1939, and it's this crazy, ridiculous play. Again, it's just noises and sounds. And so Mutt and Jute felt a lot like noises and sounds where you go, is there meaning? Maybe. Or is it just the hearing of the sounds that's important?
I just know that Jute was all like, drink a Guinness, my dude. Like, chill out.
Then we move on to 1817 through to 21-4. More historical context. Patrick banishes snakes, the history of writing. So there you go. St. Patrick.
I didn't get the history of writing.
Yeah, we sort of got a little bit of the snake stuff, and obviously the St. Patrick banishing snakes is a myth, but Joyce loves that myth, so he's bringing it all back. Then from 21-5 to 23-15, the Prank Queen, which is in quotation marks, based on the Grace O'Malley legend. I don't know who Grace O'Malley is. Sounds like a person that you'd name a pub after, but is obviously I'm a bad Irishman because I don't have the Grace O'Malley context there. Let's do some live Googling. See, the first thing to come up is Grace O'Malley's, which is a pub in Toronto. But no, Grace O'Malley, she was the head of the O'Malley dynasty in the 16th century Ireland. And so she was a landowner, a sea captain, and a political activist. And she sounds like a bit of a badass. So it's in part of Irish folklore. And lots of interesting things about Grace O'Malley. All right. And people name pubs after her. There you go. From 23-16 to 24-15, there is a prayer that Finnegan will rest in peace, but twist, he wakes up. So this is the Finnegan's Wake part that we were talking about in the first one, part of the song. He wakes up, and then the mourners from 24-16 to 29-36, the mourners reassure him back to sleep. So they say, you woke up, you were dead.
Yeah.
So they reassure him back to sleep, and then they announce the, quote, coming man.
That's crazy.
And that is the end of 1-1.
And in the quick Google, I did find a paper by Vincent Dean called The Prank Queen and the Localization of Legend, which I'm not going to read. I just think...
Excellent.
Yeah, 20 pages.
We would put it in show notes, but then we don't want to give you guys homework.
No.
If we're not going to do it, we're not going to make you do it. No.
What kind of teachers would we be? If
one day we're going to get our first Irish listener, and then we're in for it. We'll lots of notes. Until that day,
if you want to give me notes, come and fly to me, and then we can have notes.
Fly us to you.
Oh yeah,
Ireland.
And then we'll gladly listen to the notes.
That's it. Yeah. Oh, any lingering final thoughts on Chapter 1, Section 1?
No, I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun.
Me too. That's so good. So yeah, but that is all the time we have for Wake this week. If you are a mutt and think you know a Jute that would like to listen to our podcast, let them know and buy them a Guinness. I've been Toby Malone, joined as always by TJ Young, and we are on track. Join us next week for Chapter 1-2, the Humphreyad 1, an academic study about the rumour mill obsessed with HCE, and we will have music. Our first non-us guest. We will see you there, you maniacs. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegan's Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegan's Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegan's Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.